Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. I think this is the third or fourth time I've started this podcast. Sometimes when you're doing these, things just don't flow. And I promised a podcast was going to be out today, so I'm going to continue to stick with it here until I get it right. You can always get a hold of me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com or hit me up on any of my social media uh, platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those places. And if you have a podcast idea or you have a guest or you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, just send me a DM and I'll be glad to consider it. Maybe we can get together and talk before we do a podcast. Now, this is the fourth podcast I've done about AI, and I'm not an AI expert, and this will probably be the last one unless you all find me a guest that knows a lot more about AI than I do, because all I'm doing is giving you what I'm seeing. And uh, that's all I can do is tell you what I know about it. And I'm not an expert by any means about AI. I just know that this is, like I said, the fourth podcast I've done on it. The first one we did, I kind of had an expert on, a young kid that was very, very concerned about the future and how AI is going to affect our economy, our children, creativity, jobs, all these different things, commerce, anything you can think of. I also did a podcast about AI, how it affects our children. And if our children are out there asking questions to AI, instead of coming to their parents or their siblings or their grandparents or their friends, they're asking AI. And I'm not sure that you parents want them getting the answer they're getting. And lastly, the last podcast I did was about AI in a workforce, how people are so nervous about losing their job that it's affecting their performance. Managers, owners, CEOs are all scared about what AI is going to do to their company, and they're not quite sure how to use it in most cases. The best leaders are communicating with their staff and getting them to understand and planning with them how they can use it to their advantage within their company. So I just think that, and I've kind of done some research and some reading on this, that when I'm on social media, which I'm on it a lot, I'm like a teenager on social media, but it's primarily I'm doing marketing, watching workout videos, watching speaking videos. I'm trying to learn things from social media. I don't go on there and, take pictures of what I'm eating or things like that. Not that that's anything wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, it's up to you. I'm just trying to use it as an educational thing. And I use AI on a regular basis as well. I use it as a tool. And I have some notes here I'm going to kind of read off of because I don't want to miss something that I'm talking about. And I will start with this, though. Inevitably, I'm putting information out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, TikTok, and all those places. And it's offering services or it's expressing things that I want to do in the future, in the near future. And I always get ads that tell me that I can make, $10,000 in the next 5 days, or I can get speaking gigs coming out my ears, or all these different things that are just being recycled from other people, generally AI generated. And so it's the same thing you're seeing all the time. How to do a thumbnail, what a thumbnail is supposed to look like. Just anything you can think of that AI can create. And you can ask AI, if you use Claude or Chat GPT or Copilot, you can ask them to draw things or animate yourself or things like that. Sometimes I'll be on Facebook and it'll say, it'll have a program that can animate you, right? Or draw you on as a cartoon. And people will bite on that. And then the next thing you know, every other post is about these people that got their picture animated. And it's just the same stuff, recycled, recycled, recycled. And there's just no creativity to it because it's the same thing, just copied over and over and over. And I think it's affecting how creative people are, especially young people. They're letting AI be the creators and not them being the creators. We have more creative tools than any generation in history, yet everything looks and sounds the same. It's the funniest thing. I thought that this AI was going to help us be better creators, and all it is replacing our own creativity with somebody else's. Creativity didn't collapse overnight. It's been slowly stopped uh, it's been slowly replaced by shortcuts, templates, and trends. So you'll see that too. You'll see these trends that go on where people are just um, recycling content, and it's nothing to do with their creativity. It's what somebody else created, and they're just copying it, changing the colors, changing the face, whatever they're doing. My grandson is an incredible artist. He's becoming a good musician too, and he's very creative in that space. And I met an artist last week that was just phenomenal, and he had this whole kind of signature way he paints and things like that. This is something AI cannot replace. Now I can go on AI, create a rap song, create uh, a drawing or a picture or a painting, and I can tell you that I am not creative when it comes into that space, but I can do it through AI. Now it's not creative on my part; it's just copying somebody else what they've done. Um, Trend culture rewards sameness. When these people are getting blown up and they're getting all these likes and they're getting followed and everything because the algorithm pushes what already works, not what's new, right? So that no one's creating things that are new. There may be some AI people creating things that are new, and we're all glomming onto it. And that's when that happens, we think that you know, we're blowing up, but it's actually AI blowing up, and it's not us being creative. And social media has turned creativity into a race to the fastest, right? Who can get out there the fastest and create something the quickest? I get a barrage of I can make your website better. I can build a website in 30 minutes. Yeah, you can build a website in 30 minutes with whatever information I give you, but it'll never have that creativity or that personal touch because everyone's chasing the same 10 formats, right? The same hooks, the same viral formulas. And although they work a little bit, there's just no personality to it. It's just what AI decides to create. Now, for you older people that are on this podcast listening, we had things called encyclopedias when we were young, and AI is nothing but a very fast encyclopedia, probably with more information in it that they've gathered over several years. A lot of people I know just want to resist AI. The problem is it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay for a long time, and it's going to affect the way we live for a long time. So you might as well embrace it and learn from it and use it as a tool. When I talked about the speaking part, event planners want predictable speakers because predictable speakers don't make anyone uncomfortable. My ground truth leadership speaking is about the truth. It's not about making people comfortable. I'm not a comedian. I'm not there to make you feel good. I'm there to tell you the truth about how your company's acting and how your mission statement is not getting all the way down to the front line of who you're working with. There was a guy on a while back that I was watching, and it wasn't AI produced. It was a guy that said he turned down a speech for $25,000 because they wanted him to dress in a suit and tie because of the people he was speaking with. And he refused to do that because it wasn't him. It wasn't his genre. It wasn't what he was best at. And he didn't want to do something because somebody was paying him to act like they wanted him to. That's terrible, right? We want people to be creative, painters, musicians, all these things. I can go on Guitar Hero and write a riff on a guitar, but doesn't mean anything that I didn't do it. AI did it. A computer generated thing did it. Everyone talks the same, posts the same, and thinks the same on social media. And if you're on there as much as I am, you'll see that. It's just regurgitated material. They're shaping their personality around what an algorithm likes. And I want real people. I want to talk to real people. I want to help real people succeed. I want them to be creative. I want to embrace their knowledge. When you lose your voice, you lose your impact. You're not going to be impactful if you're just following along with the crowd. You're just going to be another person saying the same entire thing. And it's not AI generated content that's the issue, it's AI generated people. These kids, these younger people are falling into this trend that's just regurgitating material over and over and over. And I know I keep repeating myself, but this is exactly what's happening. And you can see it if you're on social media at all. When you lose your voice, you lose your impact. I just said that. Um, Leaders who can't think creatively can't lead. They only can manage. And what we need in this world is leaders, not managers. I deal with a large organization. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine that's involved in this organization too. And it's exactly what's happening to their organization is the leaders in this organization are falling apart. They're not communicating. They're following trends. They're just following what they think they're supposed to do, and it's ruining their organization. And it's an enormous organization. And I even think at the top of that organization, the same thing's happening. Again, they're not getting their mission statement or that vision down to the front line, and that's what you really need to do if you want to have a copacetic organization that's going to work together. Safe leaders create safe cultures, and safe cultures don't innovate. If you want to be better at what you're doing, you got to figure out how to be better at what you're doing, not because of AI, because AI is just going to generate the same thing for anybody else that asks. You need to be creative. You need to think outside the box. Creators crush the box. They innovate. Think about all the people, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all these people that have created something, and you can hate them or love them or whatever you want to do, but you can't take away the fact that they created something and they were drivers and they got stuff done. You wouldn't probably have a cell phone if it wasn't for Steve Jobs and some other companies that were fighting for competition back in the day. IBM was the huge computer company back then, and um, Apple and Microsoft went up against IBM. We'd be doing the same thing with the same materials we had back then, but these guys innovated and they created things. Now, I know a lot of you listen to me that are in my age group think that the 70s were better, and maybe they were morally, maybe they were, maybe our society was in better shape. But think about the technology that we have that I can drive out, I can go outside, get in my car, and call somebody in China and see them in real time while I'm driving. You know what this has done for business? What this has done for creativity? What this has done for for our society? Has it been tough on society and ruined some things? I guess. We have to look at AI, like I said, as a tool, not as the end of everything, right? We went through this with computers. I mentioned that in my last podcast. You got to use AI as a tool, not a replacement for your brain, right? You still got to be thinking, you still got to be creating, you still got to dream. AI can't dream for you. It can give you ideas, possibly, if somebody else has already had the idea. But if you want to expound on it, you have to use your own creativity, your human creativity. Think again, risk again. Say something that actually matters. Think about life and relationships and all those things, and don't let AI speak for you. You need to be that creative person. And I know a lot of you think you're never going to do anything else in your life, creativity wise. You are definitely going to be doing stuff. You definitely have the opportunity to create something, which I've talked about in my last podcast, because you have that creativity within you. Don't let AI replace that creativity. Your life experience is your competitive advantage. This is the biggest thing in my life, for instance. When I'm telling these kids these stories that I'm working with right now, and they're looking at me, some of them like don't care that I have all these stories from my life experiences. You couldn't make the stuff up that's happened to me in my life. And a lot of you have the same thing. I've had been involved in or been around things that have happened in my life that are you couldn't write it. You couldn't dream it up because I was there. I heard it. And these are the kind of things that are going to make you creative and make you stand out. Not AI that everybody's doing the same thing. Creativity comes from perspective, not prompts. You don't just go in. I was watching an article and it said, put in Chat GPT, put this in. And I did it. And you could build a whole business. It'll tell you what to do. The problem is that everybody's getting that same information. So you'd have to still be creative. It's okay if you get And as far as I'm concerned, if you go on AI and say, what are the steps to get to this level? And then expound on all those different steps, right? Be creative and get to that place. Um, you got to stop being a trend follower. And this is not for the people my age group, because you're probably not following the trends. And you got to start being a truth teller. You got to start talking about what's really happening, not just what AI has created and its machine mind. The value you have to society from telling the truth and talking about your life experiences is so much more important than AI. Um, it's not even competitive. I mean, it's what you've done in your life and things that have happened to you. And when you've raised children and you've been in relationships, you've been in all these things. This is something AI can never match to a human. They can try to do it, but it will not happen. Um, the world is drowning in content, but starving for originality. This is where I think the future is an originality, right? Getting out there and being yourself, telling your story, getting over those limitations, fighting back, coming back, stop making excuses. AI can't help with any of those things, but a lot of people are hiding behind it. And I won't, and it's probably more younger people than our age, or, 40 to 60-year olds that are following trends, but you never know. Um, that's the thing. Are you creating or are you copying? Are you just copying what the trends are? Because it's going to get to a point where if those things pay you, they won't if everybody else is doing the same thing. It's kind of like, when everybody was getting, in the 90s, they were getting degrees. Oh, so here's a better example. For years, there was a time where nurses were making quite a bit of money. They were very much in need, and they were going out and they were getting a degree in nursing and they were doing very well. Well, there's so many nurses now, you can see that the economy has kind of crushed them and they're not making the kind of money they were in the past. IT degrees was the same thing. Everybody got an IT degree, and now IT degrees are paying you $20 an hour, $15, $16 an hour, depending on where you're at. AI didn't kill creativity. People are killing creativity. They're not getting out there and being themselves and looking in the mirror and saying, this is what I need to do to move on and be original, right? So, kind of back to my grandson's thing, he does not like AI because it does create things that he thinks he can do better, and he should think that because he can. I have a friend of mine that's a very good painter. I see him online all the time. He used to live in San Diego. He's in Florida now. Phenomenal artist. I mean, he draws these beach scenes, but when you see him, you can tell they're not AI created, right? They're very, they're very much him, right? You can look at his other art and you can see there's just a personality in what he's doing. I think that when we see AI generated pictures of women or men that are in very good shape or very young or have a great hairline and all these things, our kids are starting to think that's normal. That's not normal. Normal is having a bump on your right cheek that nobody else has, having DNA that nobody else has. Understand that AI has the same DNA, and there's not another person in this universe that has the same DNA as you. Remember, you're a 1 in 400 trillion opportunity to be born in this beautiful world. And some scientists will say it's even bigger than that. AI has one DNA, and that's wherever that information is coming. It could be from OpenAI or whatever. They're just gathering information that's just over and over and over the same information. Can it help you with a spreadsheet? It can. Can it give you directions to something? It can. And those are all great things to use as a tool. But um, again, it cannot replace creativity, human creativity, and don't think it ever will. And we should be looking at those creative people and those leaders that are going to take us to that next level. Yes, AI is going to be around, but it's never going to get personal. I'm trying to see if there's any things I skipped, and I know this was kind of a short podcast and a little bit repetitive to what I've talked about before. Like I said, Raising 10 will be back next week, and then I'll get some other guests that can help us. Um, so here's one about companies that are full of managers pretending to be leaders because real leadership requires original thought. And I know that I've worked with a lot of managers that just were just regurgitating the same information. They weren't coming up with ways to help their employees be better. They weren't coming up with ways to help their employees get educated so they could be better employees and make more money. Ultimately, that's what we all wanted to do when we're out there, right? We want to get recognized for what we're doing. Well, you'll get recognized for what you're doing when you start being creative and not let AI speak for you. I said to a person the other day, I was reading a book once that was about Catholicism. And this guy says the worst part about Catholicism is that Catholics are letting the media tell them who they should be. And we need to be telling people who we are, right? As Catholics or any religion or Christians or Jews or any of that. We need to be telling the world who we are and why we believe what we believe and have that, feeling of humanity in our hearts. AI will never do that. Like I said, it can regurgitate information it has in its holster, I guess you could say, but there's nothing better than human creativity. Understand that AI was created by humans, it wasn't created by a computer. And like I said, for us, you older guys, I have to check some stuff sometimes. Sometimes I'll put something into AI and I need to check and see if it was true. And there's things that are blatantly not true because lived it. I was there. Um, anyway, I'll just reiterate it. Social media turned creativity into a race for the fastest. And the same. And we're just regurgitating stuff out there. So listen, I'm not going to do another unless I have a really good speaker on, excuse me, a really good guest on that knows AI like inside and out and it can offer some more ideas that I haven't spoken about. I get it. I use AI as a tool and I hope you do too. It's not the end all in this world. Will robots replace us in some things? Probably in manufacturing things. It's not like it hasn't done it before. We have automated. I worked for a company in a moving company that I won't mention the name of the company, but they redid their warehouse so they could push a button and a forklift would go to that spot and pick a product off of a rack, and they didn't have any human interaction except the guy pushing the buttons. Well, you know that's been around for a long time, by the way. We have in this war that we're involved in, we have drones. Those are unmanned um, aircraft that somebody in a building somewhere is playing like a video game. It's sickening at one level, but it's just natural progression. Imagine how we were manufacturing things 100 years ago or 200 years ago versus the way we do it now. Of course, it was going to change. Is it less expensive? Probably. And you're paying a lot less for things that you could be paying that you would have paid for a lot more for 50 years ago, for instance. And they're probably a better product now, too. So I'll wrap this up. You might as well embrace some level of AI in your life because it's not going away and it's just part of our life. You cannot replace human creativity with AI. Absolutely 100%. And it's up to us older generation to make kids understand that they need to be creative and be themselves and produce things that come into their mind and be big dreamers and all those things. Not let AI do it for them, right? There's no replacement for hard work. If you want to start a business, if you want to write a book, if you anything you want to do in life, you're going to have to work at it. You want to get in shape, you got to go to the gym or walk or run or do whatever it is that is in your wheelhouse. AI can't do that for you. And it can't do a lot of things for us. And so we got to stop thinking that it can. It just cannot. So anyway, this is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. You can reach me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. If you'd like to be a guest, know somebody who would be a good guest, or have a great podcast idea, hit me up on social media or send me an email, and I'll do everything I can to get something like that on. Remember, I'm going to create something out of your ideas, or maybe you are. So let's get back to creativity, get back to being the people we were built to be and follow those missions that we were built to to produce and be the person that we're supposed to be. Create. That's a hard word to say. Creatively, we need to be look back inside of our minds. Forget AI for a minute. Will AI help you advertise those things and market them? 100%. And that's where the tool comes in. So anyway, have a blessed week. We're in the middle of summer now. Get out and do something this weekend. It's supposed to be a nice weekend. And I will be back next week with a Raising 10 podcast. See you guys then.